and welcome to another fun episode of Grow Your Occupancy. I'm Julie Podewitz, CEO and founder. And today I'm delighted to speak with my friend and colleague in the senior living space, Matt Reiners with Eversound, co-founder, chief something, but most importantly, co-parent and creator of Miss Adelaide, who is our special guest today. Welcome, Adelaide.
Can you say thank you? It's awesome to be here. Nope, we're not leaving yet, but thanks so much, Julie. It's great to be back on the Grow Your Occupancy podcast. So, Julie, we just did something pretty cool. I remember sitting in a car with you, an Uber, where I forget which conference it was, but it was about a 40-minute ride, and we were kind of going back and forth. And I was, basically trying to sell you on Eversound, and I was sharing all this anecdotal evidence we had of using Eversound in the tour process. And you had, brought up this idea of a case study, which we just completed, and it was really cool to see. And I'm from your point of view, when you kind of do case studies, is there a certain way you're thinking about it? Or because I imagine you're getting hit up all the time from people, but when you're thinking about case studies, what are you trying to show in it?
Well, first of all, you didn't have to sell me on Eversound. I'm already sold. From the very first time that I tried it, and we were at a different conference at that time. It was in a big room. It was quite loud. We were at the same table, but across the table from each other, and you put the earphones on me and I could hear you crystal clear. So I'm already sold. Plus, I know the impact that Eversound is making on our residents, families, and team members, certainly throughout the business, throughout the industry. But what I look at, Matt, from a kind of, an impact perspective, from a sales and marketing standpoint is just that. What impact is it going to make? Not do I think it's great or do I think it might be beneficial, but of course that might open the door, but it really I look at, okay, what are we trying to improve or what are we trying to impact? And through our conversations, thinking about the sales side, specifically removing any barriers around an individual or individuals coming in for a visit, experiencing the community, both from a perspective of I don't hear well or at all. I may be self-conscious of that, or maybe I won't enjoy it, or maybe it's just too much for me. So removing that barrier or bringing it down a bit, and as well as for those who might be coming in already, offering Eversound in this case as a tool to enhance that experience. So tracking that inquiry to tour conversion, and then tour to sale and move-in conversion, using Eversound of the prospects who did take advantage of using Eversound. How well did it enhance the experience to the tune of coming back, moving in, and then continuing that experience for them, right? For the residents that use it, and as well as offering for home visits. From a marketing perspective, looking at the differentiator, right? So we're in a very competitive time right now in our business. A lot of businesses, senior living, more competitive than ever. And we really need to look at how do we differentiate the experience for our customers. And a tool like Eversound, or offering both for residents but also for prospects, is one of the ways I believe we can really promote and show differentiation.
Yeah, and I think you kind of summed it up great there, Julie. And I know for the way that we approached it with Vitality, we basically got Eversound into a handful of your communities. We gave a life enrichment some, and then the sales and marketing directors some that they could use on the tours. And what I think it really just speaks to your guys' forward thinking and trying to do something like that, because what the numbers say is 80% of people over the age of 85 have some sort of hearing loss, but 1 in 5 that could benefit from a hearing aid are using it consistently. And hearing loss is one of those senses that if it's negatively impacting a resident, it definitely impacts quality of life, right? And it doesn't allow us to connect with people around us to the full extent. And, one of the things that I noticed too, because the data was quite telling in the communities that had Eversound versus those that didn't. But one of the things that I found really interesting, I talked to one of those family members who went on a tour, saw Eversound as being the adult child. And she said, Matt, I tried Eversound and it was a prayer answered. And she went on to tell me how she was able to communicate with her mother. She still uses Eversound today. And she was saying how it just cuts the amount of time that they need to do things. And it's just been really cool to see that. But I would love as we're kind of thinking about this case study and how we actually did. Did you have any learnings from your side? I know we definitely had some from our side of how we in the future could make these case studies that much better.
Mm-hmm. Well, first, I want to give a shout out to Team Vitality because one of the many, many, many things I love about being part of Vitality all these years is the innovation and forward thinking. And it's one thing to be forward thinking, but it's another to be forward doing, right? So in order to do anything, or to do, in this case, this case study, you need to have willing participants. So like you said, we decided back a few months ago to test pilot, but we asked for volunteers, people who felt that that it may benefit, right? And it may make impact, because we know, Matt, there's a lot of opportunity out there for differentiators. There's a lot of great tools and support, a lot of great programs, a lot of great engagement and so on. But if it's not used, it's sitting on the shelf, figuratively or literally. So that is not step number one, buy-in from all levels. And with so many moving pieces and parts, doing anything new or anything additional is definitely an ask. It's an ask. So it's one thing to be excited about it, but it's another to embrace and add it to the toolbox, add it to what we're offering, and remember to offer, in this case, Eversound. So that's a big continual learning curve. I'm pleased that we did that. I would say that would be something, if I were to offer advice or someone were to ask, I'd say definitely. I don't think surprised, because usually the more someone leans in, the more they're going to learn and grow with both the successes and also the failures, in a way. So gosh, the teams, there was a couple in particular that really bought in, that really leaned, and collaboration between sales and engagement, which is so critical and I think makes sense to everyone. And with every good intention, we all want to see that and try to see that happen. And in the day-to-day whirlwind, we may be more on our kind of single paths, despite our best intentions. So I think that a couple takeaways were that Eversound, having the tool, certainly benefited those that wanted to use it. It is the use case went up the more that the sales director and engagement director both were bought in and collaborated.
Yeah, I think it's a great point, Julie. And, of course, first and foremost, Vitality team gets a huge shout out for taking part in this. And yeah, I think, kind of that buy-in from the get-go is super important, and that ongoing coaching and just making sure people are fully utilizing it. I think, learning opportunity that I had where Eversound could have done better in the future in these is just helping with that ongoing coaching and making sure that people feel supported. We definitely tried to offer it at times, but I think we could have been a little bit more forthright in terms of offering that. But it was really cool to see how you guys, varying levels of success, those that really ran with it, had a lot of success, changed the quality of life. But I think you bring up a really good point in that, it's a whole community, right? There's different departments within that community, but there's more opportunities for people to be better aligned and help each other to be successful in their roles, whether it's life enrichment, throwing events using Eversound while tours are taking place, or just able to speak to that, or just having the messaging line up. I think it's just a really cool opportunity for people within the community to rally around the same technology, but using it in different ways, which has been really cool to see. And I'm curious, Julia, we think about this idea of coaching, and I know with Grow Your Occupancy, coaching is like front and center for you all, but I'm curious what you've learned about coaching people within the communities, and maybe not so much, this case study specific, but what you've learned along the way, and what do you think is required to help set someone up for success?
Mm-hmm. The coaching, what I've learned along the way is that coaching is critical. It's critical for initial, ongoing, continuing success, stabilization, growth, at whatever stage of life, professionally speaking, and even personally, but professionally speaking, if it's feasible, everyone needs a coach, especially leaders in sales and leadership levels. It's tough, to be honest, Matt, to necessarily get that buy-in. I think people can justify or maybe see spending money in other ways before they really will invest, not a malintent, but just a band, everybody has a budget, but when coaching is consistent, the investment pays off as long as we've got, the customer, the student buy-in. And to your point, with this case study, maybe one of your takeaways, and you're very supportive, was to, enhance coaching in whatever way, right? And doing that, there's the success kind of guideposts for great coaching. You got to be in alignment. There's got to be great communication, and the more frequent, doesn't mean every day, doesn't mean micromanaging, but that frequency of availability, of accessibility, of communication will, continue to build trust. And then with trust builds communication, builds vulnerability. I'll use this case study for an example, but it's true across the board. I would say 99% of the time is that the information coming back to us as coaches is increases our ability to help when the trust is there. So even if that is, quote, perceived as negative feedback, like, oh, hey, for instance, Matt, what I've offered this the last 10 tours and they haven't taken me up on it. And can you help me out on this? Or I don't know, I think that people feel awkward using it. Or for me, gosh, I'm trying to recap, and people seem to be wanting to, get out of the building, at the end of the tour, or they keep nodding their head externally, but I think internally they're saying no. Feedback that's like, hey, can you help me? That is really where we want to get with coaching, so that we can, I would say, solve the problem, but we got to identify what it is first. And there's not just one, but what it is in that moment, to continue removing barriers, to build, our skill sets and our actions. Because if we don't hear, I always say, no news is never good news in sales, right? So if you aren't hearing, for instance, back from a participant in the case study, it probably wasn't fabulous news. But when what we did hear was a lot of positives from those having those positive experiences. So that's what I would kind of summarize around coaching, because It's all about building people and skill sets, and, people, process, product. Got to have the processes, got to have the product, but boy, oh boy, people are going to make the greatest impact or be the biggest, anchor around growth.
Yeah. So many mic drop moments within that, Julie. It's just you're just such a wealth of knowledge and experience. It's just amazing to see.
So I did have a couple things for you. First of all, well, how much, and I know this isn't what you're fishing for or anything, but I do admire everybody on the Eversound team, your culture of giving and, trying this, for instance, this case study, diving in. I know it took a lot of your time, energies, and efforts, and there was definite cost to you. You did it without blinking. You're incredibly supportive and always looking at how can we do it better? How can we do it better? And leaning in to help the business and helping as many people as you can in the business. And for grow, and I mean, me professionally, Eversound is offering a scholarship to a lucky recipient for the Grow Your Occupancy Sales Workshop coming up in November. We'll talk about that in a minute, but I so appreciate that. I would say maybe one of my questions would be another, a company considering or a group considering a case study. What advice would you give me doing this again, or somebody else kind of diving in to make it even more successful than the one that we just completed with Vitality?
Yeah. Great thing. And yeah, we're happy to sponsor your upcoming workshop. Seems like an awesome thing. And we are giving a scholarship out to one person to take advantage of that. I would say just kind of like feedback to you or to the Vitality team, or just like in general to the general industry is, just trying to, I think we did a really good job together, like creating that buy-in from the get-go. But I think this kind of falls back into us of like, how do we continue coaching to what people are hearing and trying to give people an idea of what they would expect to hear. And kind of from that, I think we had some general hypotheses going into it that I think some things change. I know some communities, COVID hit them, so that kind of changes a lot of stuff too. But I think it's, how do we create the ongoing buy-in? And if something does change within that community, or if, you have some turnover, what's the game plan or the play call to really just make sure that community that's taking part in it, we can catch them back up to speed as quick as possible. So I would say it's more of, those crazy situations that kind of happen that you can kind of foresee, but you don't think they're going to happen, just kind of expecting the worst. And what is your game plan, or what will you do if that's the situation? I also think for the case study, one thing that we learned and what we're going to implement as we go forward is, I think we were more, hey, if you need help, book some time with us. Being more reactive into that, what I would say, and this kind of falls into your idea of coaching, right? It's just, from the get-go of doing a pilot with a group, setting the expectations of, hey, we're going to have a 20-minute call every other week just to do a quick check-in, understand where things are going, what successes you're having, what failures you're having, what questions are you being asked that you don't know, and just really setting that as part of the expectation. Because I think if we were able to do that, we probably would have had even a better handle on things and just, getting a better pulse of what was going on within the communities to ultimately set you guys up for success as well. So I think those are some of my learnings coming out of that.
Those are great learnings. And another one I would say is from this side of it would be to, on that coaching piece, just provide some examples of verbiage of how to, add it to the sales process in regard to offering its use, maybe some specific verbiage or maybe some specific scenarios. People learn by repetition, right? And practice. And just even listening or re-listening and listening to those records of maybe how to say things or how to position, selling or presenting, the tool, or in this case, Eversound. I do want to make mention, I think you're putting some data together for those who like to dive into that. We did very carefully look at conversion metrics. And while we know that there are multiple factors, right, that go into each
of variables.
these, a lot of variables. The teams that they used Eversound most had increased the conversions most, both inquiry to tour and tour to sale. Again, other pieces contribute to that, but there was a direct correlation. Another thing I would add to anybody wanting to potentially do this or something like it, would be to not burden their team with more data tracking, but perhaps very high level, did 10 tours this week, 3 of them took advantage of Eversound. Just that's it. They don't have to give long narratives or anything, or maybe even document it somehow in their CRM, or offered it 5 times. No one took me up on it. Did what, home visits. Home visits is another great example. So that would be sort of my analysis and advice for myself. I absolutely want to take this to more clients, and anything that benefits. And look, if something doesn't benefit a team, an individual, a prospect, a family, don't do it. Certainly don't do it. 100%. But if it's going to benefit, let's offer it. Let's do it, and add things to those toolboxes that are making impact.
Yeah, I think it's a great point. And I think, your earlier point of like providing those ongoing scenarios, hindsight's always 2020. And like thinking back early on, we should have set up role playing, right? Where I could have been the person coming in the tour, whether if I was the resident or the adult child, and could have done that on a one-on-one basis or a group basis. But I think there's a lot of opportunities there to really just practice some of that, kind of coaching, training, one-on-one stuff, right? Like I've been role playing since I've been in sales since the very beginning, and doing some of that stuff and not being afraid to like make those asks, because you're ultimately trying to set them up for success, right? And if you can help them be more successful in their role and in their job, it's just it's a win-win for all parties. And I think too, to your other thought of data tracking, not asking them to do much different, whatever they might be doing right now and what their success looks like, and not trying to teach new habits and new tricks, but just being like, hey, if you're able to provide us this data, you can click a box in their CRM when you do that. Like that ultimately, I think will just make that much easier. We've got this upcoming 2-day intensive fun session. Do you want to share a little bit more about what people can expect from that?
I would love to share. Yes. 2 days right outside of beautiful Nashville. So come early, stay late, do your honky tonkin' downtown, or, enjoy this wonderful city so many people visit and move to. November 15th and 16th. The cost is really the price is put at a place where we really want to encourage people to come. So we're right now kind of the rate, we'll check the rate, but for right now it's $495. And the hotel, we negotiated a very fair rate. Your travel would be on your own. 2 days going to be broken out to both internal sales, external business development. We'll have breakout sessions. We'll cover the fundamentals. So someone who's new to the space, wants a refresh, wants to get energized, needs to layer. Learning is layered. You got to learn. You don't jump to the 5th grade without doing 1st through 4th grade first, right? So in life, we're always layering our learning. And we will cover core fundamentals. We'll do role play. We'll do scenarios. They should leave with a marketing plan. For the rest of this year should be complete, but into starting 2023, very well planned, energized, with purpose and with all of those things gives us confidence. And the tangibles are critical for success. What makes the most impact is intangible. So it's how we feel about ourselves, how we approach, how we show up. What is our mindset? What's our determination, our discipline, our organization? These pieces that we only make ourselves, the determinations. And even though we make them ourselves, we lean out for support and help. And how can I get recharged, right? And this is a great way to do it. And the Grow team will be there. So it's not just me. You'll learn from a variety of great professionals. And we do have some fun along the way.
Well, Julie, I know if you're involved with anything, there's always going to be a little bit of fun along the way. But it sounds like an awesome opportunity that a lot of people will get a lot of value of. And, you're asking at a price point too that I think is really fair. And I think we'll just, the value is absolutely there. And yes, we have a scholarship for one person to go. Depending on when this launches, might be a little bit late. We've already got some people applying, which is great, but it sounds like you guys are doing some awesome stuff and, helping others to continue to grow, not just individually, but also helping to grow their business as well, which is just, so important.
Thank you, Matt, so much. And thanks for bringing your special guest. Look at your magical parenting skills.
I think the milk gets the majority of the credit, but yeah.
Great talking with you, Matt. Thank you so much for being on my podcast. I'm always thrilled to be a guest on yours and, collaborating with you. And thank you for all you do. And most importantly, your friendship.
Hey, we're friends first, Julie. I appreciate you so much. I'm so grateful that we've met and we've come into each other's lives, that I can, try to be a parent like you one day, because Ava's awesome, and just grateful for all that you bring into this world. And thank you so much for joining.
Thanks, Matt.